G'day everybody, I'm the FizzWiz, and before we get started today, one thing I wanted to mention is because I went and did all this recording, and I forgot to, one, do my intro, and two, mention this, but I do not exactly condone the drama that's going on among Sonic fans and Sonic tubers. I somewhat considers myself a Sonic tuber, considering I do have a strong emphasis on Sonic content, but I do want to get into other video games besides Sonic. But with the information and stuff, with the recent release of Sonic Mania and all this stuff coming out for Sonic Forces, there's just been a bunch of nitpicking and name calling and stuff going back and forth among Sonic tubers. And to be honest, I've not really paid too much attention to all of it. I've just kind of, looked at it and been like, oh yeah, people are just being wonderful to each other. But I just wanted to know that before we get into this, I do not condone this drama, and I am not trying to cause more drama. I had seen this video, and there are just so many points that I can't tell if he was just misunderstanding about forces or were just completely oblivious to. But this is something I just personally couldn't ignore because I don't mean to sound rude, but it's stupidity like this is the reason why people misjudge good franchises such as the Sonic franchise. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Oh boy. Alright. So, a YouTuber, I don't know if he specifies in Sonic or not, because I personally don't follow this YouTuber. But this YouTuber, FnatxFour, as of, it appears to be yesterday, or the day before, depending on whenever I get this uploaded, has uploaded a video titled, "I'm scared Sonic Forces may ruin Sonic Mania." And to be completely honest, that is, it's a very understandable concern. This is a very understandable concern. The idea that if Sonic Forces were to fail, it could possibly tarnish the reputation of Sonic Mania. I don't personally agree with this, and I'll say why later, but it's an understandable and, reasonable good start here. But so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the video, and we're just going to see how this plays out. I already know how it plays out, and I'm going to pick this apart as we go, but let's just take a look, shall we?
I've talked about it a few times on this channel, but I'll happily repeat myself. I grew up loving Sonic. A lot. I still love Sonic, admittedly less so as a result of its roller coaster ride of a games catalog, but that love has been back on the up and up thanks to the release of Sonic Mania this year. And at the beginning of this year, I even had hope for Forces. That hope, though, is slowly dying. Here's why.
Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this intro real quick. Right off the bat, I'm just going to go ahead and say right off the bat, this isn't looking good for you. I'm sorry, Fanatix, this is not looking good for you.
Sonic Mania is currently one of my favorite games of this year. I've really loved its mix of new and old level design and mechanics, the awesome bosses, the in-jokes, the music, and so much more. I haven't seen a game that has reinvigorated my Sonic fandom like this one since Sonic Generations way back in 2011. That game really had the same approach. Take what we loved in the classic Sonic games, even some of the stuff we hated, and reimagine it with a more modern design philosophy. For some reason, that is the most consistent way for Sonic Team to make a good Sonic game. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the only way to make a good Sonic game. They've done good things since Sonic 3, contrary to popular belief. But it seems they lose their way when they see a dip in public opinion of Sonic games. They answer this dip by trying to reinvent Sonic, which always ends up missing the point.
Alright, so this is one point he makes real quick. And I do have to somewhat agree. A lot of times whenever the fan base or reviewers don't enjoy a Sonic game, especially after Sega shakes things up and tries something new, Sega tends to retaliate or try something even more different or even more new. In this case, after both Lost World and Rise of Lyric kind of plummeted. They're jumping back to the boost formula, which I personally am alright with. Kind of like a safety net, jumping back to that, which is something understandable, and I think he understands this here too, which is what he was trying to get to the point here.
Sonic Mania's commercial and critical success has shown that fans don't mind new things, but those new things should not undermine, contradict, or completely miss what makes Sonic likable. Yes, as I've talked about before in this video, Sonic is supposed to be cool, but cool doesn't mean adult, and adult doesn't mean edge. I don't know where that line of logic came from.
Alright, I'm going to tell you exactly where that line of logic came from. It is true that in order to be cool, you do not have to be edgy. You do not have to be adult in order to be, quote, cool, unquote. However, that does not mean that if you are adult or you are edgy, you are not cool. Now, let me get this straight really, really quickly. The Sonic Forces presents itself to be a bit more on the edgier side. It presents itself to be a bit more on the darker side. Not extremely adult or dark, not extremely edgy, like, say, Sonic 06 or Shadow the Hedgehog. But it is more adult. Or not adult, it is more on the edge compared to as of recent Sonic games. Personally, I could care less. I personally don't find it edgy, I don't find it adult, I don't find that aspect of Forces super cool. But to maybe someone that's 12 years old, or maybe, 10, 11, 12, yeah, maybe they'll find it edgy. Maybe they'll find it cool or adult. And that's okay, because Sonic has been, and probably always will be, catered to the younger audience. So if Sonic Forces is presented to be edgier or darker, it's because it is trying to appeal to the younger audience. Why do you think that Shadow the Hedgehog was super edgy? 1, people really liked Shadow the Hedgehog. 2, people wanted a Sonic shooter, which Sega didn't want to give Sonic a gun, so they decided to give it to Shadow. And 3, the darker aesthetic was cooler back then, thanks to movies and other forms of media, like, for example, The Matrix. Things back then, such as guns, cool action sequences, explosions, and dark themes, that was cool back then. And it was especially cool to the younger audience. And even though I wouldn't necessarily suggest that Sonic Forces is cool to younger audiences today, simply because I don't really get what all younger audiences want. But just because that Sonic Forces is edgier because it's adult doesn't mean that it's not cool. Especially for today's younger audience. Maybe it isn't, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. He's sitting here saying that if it is adult, if it is edgy, that doesn't mean that it is cool. And even though that is right, the way he's putting it in context here suggests that it just absolutely will not be or cannot be. And that is simply not true. Yes, Sonic Forces, in terms of theme and aesthetics, do not appeal to someone of my age or maybe his age, but that does not instantly mean that it is not cool, objectively speaking.
So I don't know where they got most of their ideas from, and these ideas have done nothing but serve to harm the public opinion of Sonic even more than being seen as too childish or whatever. Sonic 06 is the first game to doom Sonic's overall reputation, because before that game, I can't for the life of me recall so many people claiming Sonic was never good. Well, no one outside of a fanboy war anyway. Sonic Team figured
that personally doesn't make sense to me. Especially back in the console wars, whenever Sonic was being introduced to the gaming world, if you were not a Sonic fan, Sonic was not cool to you. Sonic was not good to you. If you were within the Sonic fandom, if you were within the Sonic area, like fan base, after Sonic Adventure Ed came out, that is where a huge split in the fan base came from. Some people thought that Sonic shouldn't be 3D. Some people thought that Sonic shouldn't be darker blue with green eyes and taller and older. A lot of people thought that that shouldn't have happened. That is where a big split. And a lot of people think that those Sonic games are not good. Even back then, people thought that Sonic games were not good, the 3D Sonic games. And a lot of people who jumped into the Sonic games at the 3D point thought that the classic games were not good. So that argument right there is a bit flawed. People both inside and outside the Sonic fan base at one point or another, even before Sonic 06, thought that Sonic was not good at one point or another.
Sonic lost his way, and since the blue blur is supposed to be cool, they needed to edge him up a bit. Nothing says cool like a dark storyline, bestiality, and half-finished level designs.
Alright, I'm going to stop you right there. Who said that these were selling points of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006? If I look at the back of the, container that the CD comes in, the, case that it comes in, if I look on the back, am I going to see special bulletin points saying unfinished level design, super edgy, characters and story, watch as a girl, and a hedgehog get it on? You're acting as if these are actual selling points to Sonic 06. Like, that's what Sega was going for. Like, whenever they finished Sonic 06 and realized it was an unfinished state, they realized to use this as a selling point. Like, hey, look at this unfinished game we're going to sell. Here, you should buy it because it's unfinished. That makes it cool. What? Where is your logic here? That's what I'm wanting to know. Where did you get this?
Broken gameplay physics and stilted dialogue, after all. Following this game, we had bad game after bad game. Okay, we had one mediocre game in this time span, Sonic Unleashed. The Sonic the Hedgehog stuff is passable. It wasn't great. It felt too on rails for much of the time for me, but it was nowhere near as bad as the shoehorned in Werehog segments. What's with that generation and unwanted werewolf segments? Was Twilight even a thing at this point? Anyway.
Alright, quick little pit stop here. There were more good games after Sonic 06. Sonic and the Secret Rings was not good. Objectively speaking, yes, it was bad. Sonic and the Black Knight was... it was better than Secret Rings, but I wouldn't give it a 6 out of 10. I wouldn't even do that. I'd give it like a 4.5 to 5 out of 10. And that's objectively speaking. I kind of like Black Knight more than that, but objectively speaking, it really wasn't that great of a game. But then there are the handheld games, which I think he's going to get into here soon. The handheld games in that era were relatively good. I know that the Sonic Rivals were mixed received, but none of them were bad games. It wasn't until Sonic Unleashed here that we actually had another Sonic game. So there were no bad Sonic games in between 06 and Unleashed, unless you count a spin-off game such as Secret Rings. So where's that coming from? That's what I want to know.
We did get more good games after this, and even during this, strangely enough, I'd be remiss to ignore the pretty consistent clip of great 2D handheld games. The problem I'm talking about in this video largely lies with 3D Sonic, which is the spotty part. And that's because, for one reason or another, most people haven't experienced the handheld games, which is why I'm mostly talking about 3D, and also this video is ultimately about Forces, which is also mostly 3D. All of that is to say, I hear you 2D Sonic fans, the handheld games are great, except this.
Alright. This is going to get ear rapey. I just gotta warn you for a second.
Jesus! Back to the...
Alright. First of all, nice Some Call Me Johnny reference. I really like him. Second of all, sorry for the ear rape. I'll probably turn that down. Third of all, what does this have to do with Mania? You went back to 2D for a second, and I meant to bring this up a long time ago, but I just wanted to see if anybody had noticed up until then. You see up here, I'm scared Sonic Forces may ruin Sonic Mania. Other than the very beginning, have you even heard him mention Mania once? Anyone? No? Well, it's because he didn't. He didn't mention Mania, not a single time. Do you know why? Because all he's doing here is just bashing 3D Sonic games, which, for one, is nothing new. People bash 3D Sonic all the time. I'm not even going to get tilted over that. Two, what does this have to do with Sonic Forces? I mean, I think, if I remember right, he gets into Sonic Forces and is just comparing Sonic Forces to other past 3D Sonic titles. But what does this have to do with why Sonic Forces may ruin Mania? Not a single time throughout this entire video, spoiler alert, does he get into why. Let's just continue.
the path to Forces. So yeah, we finally got a couple of good 3D Sonic games in the form of the aforementioned Sonic Generations, Sonic Colors, and although for some reason there's hate in the community for this, Sonic 4 Episodes 1 and 2, which are technically 2D, but they're on consoles, so they count. The world of Sonic looks...
I spaced out for a second, and he mentioned Sonic 1 and 2, and I honestly don't remember what he was talking about, but whatever it was, it probably had absolutely nothing to do with the argument at hand.
Similar to how I see the current state of Sonic games, there was lots of great stuff happening and more games on the horizon. These games, however, proved to give the old 1-2 punch to Sonic's reputation after, against all odds, rising from the Sonic 06 ashes. During the life of the Wii U, Nintendo and Sega announced an exclusive partnership that consisted of 3 new Sonic games for Wii U and 3DS. We got Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games, which, whatever, those games are comfort food, I guess. The real offense began with Lost World. This game, to be fair, is more in the Unleashed camp, not worst game of all time territory, but it definitely did Sonic's reputation zero favors in the lead up to the second real blow to Sonic's reputation with gamers, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. This game was basically Sonic 06 without the edge, and we got 3 games in the Boom series, 2 of which, again, aren't as bad as the Wii U game, but average is not good enough for a gaming icon, especially considering how bad his bad gets. Creepy Doom. So with all that...
Alright, quick pit stop here as well. He's not wrong here. Yes, Sonic Lost World was received mediocrely. It wasn't received terribly, but it just wasn't what people were expecting. And Sonic Boom bombed. Okay, it just bombed. But once again, I'm going to bring this back up. What does this have to do with your overarching point? Spoiler alert, nothing he says here has to do with why Sonic Forces may ruin Mania. This is just him bashing on 3D Sonic games. Guess what? Sonic 06 happened, what, 6 years ago? No, that was way longer. I'm sorry. I was thinking Sonic Generations. Sonic 06 happened 11 years ago. It was 2006. This year's 2017. That happened 11 years ago. Congratulations. You're bashing on 11-year-old Sonic game. That's one of the worst video games of all time. Do you want a medal? Is it mandatory you bring this up in this video to prove your point about Sonic Mania and Forces?
Said, let's come back to Sonic Forces. It's not looking too good. On an aesthetics and theming level, I can't be the only one getting Sonic 06 vibes from it. The dark, serious tone just never goes over well in Sonic games.
Yes, you are the only one getting this tone, at least from me. I have talked with multiple people about Sonic Forces and the overall tone with it, and not a single person I have talked to have compared this to Sonic 06. Not a single person. Not in aesthetic, not in overall feel, not in theme-wise. None of it. No one has compared this to Sonic 06 at all. No one. Now, I understand that, yes, Sonic 06 was supposed to be a reboot of the Sonic franchise that failed. It was supposed to be a bit more serious and a bit more dark. However, this is a different scenario. Sonic Forces is not a reboot. It is not a recreation. Sonic Forces is dark for a completely different reason as to why Sonic 06 is. Sonic Forces is dark to, 1, try to draw in the younger kids of today, and 2, to draw in the adventure fans of today. That is what the Sonic Adventure games and the Sonic Adventure fans loved about those games, is the darker overtone and the story and the plot. That is why it is like this. I remember watching in an interview with, was it, I want to say Sakurai, but that's not it. Iizuka, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Smash Bros. For a second. Iizuka. He was saying that Sonic Forces is doing its best to appeal to every bit of the Sonic community. Classic Sonic is back to appeal to the classic fans. This dark overtone and heavier emphasis on story is appeal to the adventure fans. The boost formula is to appeal with modern Sonic fans. What does this have to do with 06? Why is this needing to be compared with 06?
It's a joke for a reason. Certainly not because people love it, it's because it's stupid and eventually hilarious to see a mascot like Blue Chili Dog 11 Cartoon Hedgehog have songs from preteens playlists to deal with their newly found existential dread.
Okay, first of all, it's not funny. It used to be funny to make fun of how dark Sonic games were. It's not funny anymore. First of all, it is alright for Sonic to be dark. it is alright for Sonic to be lighthearted. Sonic has been both. It is completely a matter of perspective. I was actually talking about this earlier with Plymouth the Cat. Great channel, by the way. You should go check out his stuff. As I was talking, yes, Sonic was presented to be lighthearted all the way from the beginning. It just depends on how you view it. Sonic 1 has a very, very dark overtone to it when you want to put it into context. But since Sonic 1 is taken out of context and presented to be a lighter, more child-friendly game, it is presented and viewed as a more lighthearted Sonic game. I mean, you could look at it like this. A super cool, speedy, fast hedgehog that's blue is battling the evil genius Dr. Robotnik, who's putting tiny little animals into machines. That's how Sonic 1 presents itself. Now here's the actual story. Dr. Robotnik, a mad tyrant genius who hates Mother Nature and the balance of overall nature within the world, is trying to turn innocent creatures, woodland creatures, into machines, and to turn Mother Nature itself into one smoothly working oiled machine, meaning completely turning the world into a machine, ridding of all normal nature and all things natural, so he can rule over it, and Sonic, being a lone wolf, is going against Robotnik, taking him on single-handedly. It's all a matter of perspective. That is still Sonic 1's plot. Just because Sonic 1 was presented to be lighthearted does not mean that it doesn't have a darker overtone. Sonic has always had a dark overtone, but Sonic has also always had a lighthearted facing side to present to the players. It isn't funny to make fun of these dark stories anymore. Yes, the Adventure series had darker stories. It had the super edgy Shadow the Hedgehog. Yeah, that was funny back then. It's old now. It's not funny. And they're not trying to make fun of it in Sonic Forces. They're really not. They are presenting it there to appeal to the Sonic Adventure fans.
Playing in the background, and some dark storyline about Sonic and Eggman's latest conflict. It's fine to poke fun of all of that in an indirect way, but centering a game around this same theme is like a writer telling a bad joke and poking fun at the fact that they did it in an attempt to excuse and or salvage the act.
That's not what this is doing. I kind of just explained how this is not what Sonic Forces is doing whatsoever. Sonic Forces isn't trying to be edgy for the sake of being edgy. Sonic Forces isn't trying to be edgy because it's appealing to people who think that being edgy in a Sonic game is funny. No, it is edgier, it is darker, it is more adult to appeal to the Sonic Adventure fans.
The Sonic Forces DLC is the perfect example of this.
No, it's not.
Hey fans, remember how much you hated that thing we did? Lol. Funny jokes. Lol. Here's more of that thing you hated. Lol. And
alright, seriously, you're just gonna sit here and bash on the Shadow DLC? I mean, that's... Bashing on 3D Sonic games is 1, old, and 2, low enough. Every other person and their grandmother has done that. Are you really gonna bash the Shadow DLC? Because 1, the Shadow DLC has nothing to do with this. Yes, the Shadow DLC is here to 1, cater to those who want to play as multiple characters other than Sonic, meaning people who want to play as Shadow. But it also, 2, emphasizes the darker story and overtone of the game. It has nothing to do to act as a callback to Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes, Sega realizes that Shadow the Hedgehog was a bit of a joke of a game, but this has absolutely nothing to do with it. Yes, the overall arcing story and darker overtone is to appeal to the adventure fans, but I highly doubt that the inclusion of the Shadow DLC here has absolutely anything to do as a reference to Shadow the Hedgehog back then. First of all, if they were to do that, they might as well just make Shadow control like an adventure character, or like in the adventure games, but no, he's controlling like modern Sonic in the boost formula. This has nothing to do with 1, the point you're trying to make, or 2, with Sonic Mania. Have we forgotten about that yet? No, because I probably keep drilling it in your head, but if I wasn't here and you was watching it by yourself, you probably would have forgotten it.
Though I don't buy the justification, I can see people buying into that for the goofs. As far as the gameplay goes, I personally haven't played any Sonic Forces yet, so I'm not willing to pass judgment on that end of it just yet.
And actually, this is another one thing I gotta give him props for. Yes, thank you for doing that. Everyone is bashing on Sonic's gameplay, and I'm not going to really get into it, but just don't. I mean, I realize, yeah, some people were able to play Sonic Forces, but those are demo versions. They are partially incomplete versions of Sonic Forces. There was time between the demo versions used and the actual release, so they will most likely make changes. Now, that doesn't mean that every single demo that they release is the same demo. I don't know. Maybe they are making updated demos. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But the one thing I have to give him props for is not bashing on the gameplay whenever he, for one, hasn't played it. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just bashing on the gameplay despite not actually have playing it.
But I haven't heard any good things from outlets that have previewed the game. That's almost never a good sign. Believe me, I want this game to be good, and there's still some hope left, but suffice it to say that what we've seen from this game so far doesn't do a very good job at instilling confidence. Literally the only announcements that made me moderately excited were the return of the modern / classic Sonic dynamic and the custom character creations, the latter of which is one of the things being criticized. But hey, maybe they're learning from Generations and Mania. Look, they announced a new level remake. It's Chemical Plant Zone.
Double sigh, because I'm not even going to mention this. I'm going to get into this in a bit later on another video, but prepare for another sigh.
I'm just kind of bummed so far. I'm anxious to get my hands on it. Maybe it can change my mind, because if Sonic Forces turns out to be bad, I think it'll effectively erase all the goodwill that Sonic Mania garnered this year. Let's all hope that doesn't happen, but those are my thoughts. What do you think? Are you optimistic for Sonic Forces? Maybe cautiously optimistic like myself?
Alright, so that's all we're going to go into here. I have to say, for one, did you notice the Sonic Mania there at the very end? That whole 5 seconds of Sonic Mania? Yeah, I did too. The first time I watched this video, I realized, oh yeah, this is supposed to be comparing why Sonic Forces may ruin Sonic Mania. And not a single bit of that video was about why. At all. Like, first of all, if you're going to make an argument as to why one item, or one object, or one entity may ruin or influence the existence of another entity, go into why. Go into the connections of the two entities. Go into the interconnectivities and how the two of them work or interwork with each other. Go into all of that. Not go into one of them and then go into everything that one was based off of, and then just bash that one, and then bring up the other one at the very last second. Bashing all of 3D Sonic is not bringing your point together at all. It's just a bunch of random points that are bashing 3D Sonic that's not even funny anymore. It's not. Now, to get a little bit on my personal idea here, I'm not a Forces defender, by all means. I'm not going to blindly defend Sonic Forces. I'm not going to defend it till my very last breath, because I am not a 12-year-old. I am an adult. I have a job. I have payments. I'm not going to do that. Personally, this is of course just me personally. You can disagree with me. That's understandable. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to try to bash you for thinking otherwise. Personally, I think that Sonic Forces will do moderately okay. If I had to predict, I think to be safe, it will probably sell as good as Colors. Like maybe Unleashed in Colors area. At the best, I think it will probably be as good as Generations. I highly doubt it will surpass Generations in terms of popularity or sales. But I do think it should at least be on par with Sonic Colors or Sonic Unleashed. Now, I'm not going to say that I think this is a fact. I can be wrong. I could be very much wrong about this. And if I'm wrong, then, I'll admit I'm wrong. That's fine, I wasn't right. I'm probably still going to enjoy Forces. I'm probably still going to like it for what it is. But I can't say whether Forces will be good or not. And as for the point he was trying to make but failed here, I'd honestly have to disagree with him. Sonic Forces will most likely not ruin Sonic Mania. I mean, out of everything he's said here, out of everything he's interconnected, this is honestly the only logical things he said, and even then, it's slightly flawed. I honestly think that if Sonic Forces were to fail, it would strengthen Sonic Mania. If people in the future were to go back and look at Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces and go, all right, which of these two games should I buy? Everyone's going to point at Sonic Mania. That's just what's going to happen. But that's personally just me. That's what I think that'll happen. I think that's just, how I feel. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. But overall, I think that's all I've got for today. I'll see you guys next time. Like, subscribe, take a look at my, Twitch if you want to, and Twitter. I'll post updates about videos and polls on Twitter and on Google+. So I'll see you all guys next time.